Thanks for tuning into this episode of Walden Wong Art. Today, I'm going to show you a little watercolor I did. Actually, we're not going to show you my watercolors. We're actually here for the Inktober piece. This is the Inktober piece that I've done today. This was just a little watercolor that I have done today. Some clouds on the floor rolling around in front of a mountain in a moody sky, and then there's a tree. It's just something I painted in watercolors. Watercolors is fun, so every so often I would do a watercolor painting. But we're gonna talk about the Inktober piece I've done today. For those of you who landed on my channel, you don't know who I am. My name is Walden Wong, and I'm a comic book artist from Marvel Comics and DC Comics. Check out my website. My website is waldenwongart.com, and I have a Patreon page. It's patreon.com/waldenwongart. And I'm going to be doing an Inktober piece. This is Inktober day number 10. For those of you who have been following me, so far I've done 9 Inktober videos, 1 video a day. And today is on Moon Knight. Okay, this is one of the viewers' suggestions to work on Moon Knight. You can look at some of my previous videos where I worked on Orion, Mr. Sinister, Sentinel, Dr. Doom, Superman, Thanos, and MODOK, and then Gambit. But today's video is Moon Knight. I always thought Moon Knight was Marvel Comics' version of Batman. So when I was working on this, I was trying to think of what would Moon Knight do that's kind of cunning like Batman. And I kind of made this piece more edgy compared to all the other Inktober pieces I've done. So I'm going to show you how I sketched this out, how I penciled it, and how I inked it. So without further ado, let's go. I'll start off and sketch out a little quick stick figure thumbnail of how I want the pose to look. And after I have that stick figure, I'll start sketching in the whole figure by using cylinders, squares, triangles, rectangles, circles, just to put the figure in there. And instead of just sketching like a 2D basic shape, I would just make them into a block, like a rectangular block, a cylinder block, a circle, and then just curve some of the forms around. So here I'm just adding the anatomy of a figure, just drawing all the anatomy first. So a lot of times when I'm sketching comic book characters or any kind of character, I'll just sketch out the anatomy for how it looks like. And after all the anatomy is all sketched in, then I'll go back and I'll look at the costume to see how it looks. And then I would just draw the costume around it. So here, as I'm sketching, sometimes I'll be happy with my sketch and I won't be happy, and I'll go back and I'll redraw it over and over again until I get it right. Like for example, the left foot, I had it tilted in and I redrew it to have it tilted out. And then I'll just redraw it. And after I have the figure all sketched out and I'm happy with the figure, the anatomy, the pose, then I'll go back in there and I'll start drawing the details of Moon Knight. So curve those bracelets around his arm, and then a lot of times when I'm drawing the details of the costume, I'll go in there and adjust the figure a little bit just to match up, align it with the body a little bit more. So I'm drawing Moon Knight's hood, and here I'm drawing his cape. With his cape, I was going for a more edgy look. A lot of my previous Inktober pieces, you'll see that most of the figures are softer, but with this one, I decided to go with a more edgy look. And one of my favorite characters in the comic book world is Spawn, and I like the way Todd McFarlane draws the cape on Spawn. So I decided to kind of mimic that feel of the cape. So instead of a soft flowing cape, like one of my Inktober pieces that I've done for Superman, where it's nice and soft, this one for Moon Knight, I decided to give him a more edgy feel of the cape. So here I will draw Moon Knight's face, and I'm struggling with the face. I'm not really happy with how it looks, so I decided to just erase the whole head initially and just redraw the head all over again. Sometimes I'll draw something, and then after the whole pose doesn't look right, I'll just go in there and just erase the whole thing. Better to just erase it and be happy with what you're drawing than to just keep it and then, not want to do any changes and then, when everything is done, it just doesn't look right. So I'm one of those artists that would just redraw. It doesn't look good. I'll erase everything and then I'll redraw it again. I had times where I would just instead of redrawing it would be so much easier to just grab a whole new piece of paper and start over again. So here earlier you saw me use a pencil as a ruler because I didn't want to go grab the ruler, and since I had two pencils already, I just use the ruler as a pencil. And you'll see me draw a line through Moon Knight's right leg. That's actually his cape. I just drew it through his leg because I know that when I'm drawing in pencil, after I'm done drawing, I ink it, I'm going to erase it anyway. So it's okay for me to draw over the lines. So a lot of times when I'm drawing, I'm sketching, there's extra lines that you can see through. And then when I'm done inking, I'll just erase everything later. So as usual, I'll ink the face first, and then the fingers, and then the hands, get all that out of the way. I see Moon Knight's hood as part of his facial features, so I decided to ink all that in. And then here I'm inking everything else that needs a template, like template ovals, circle ovals, ruler, any template work that I need. I'm just gonna ink all those in, and then I ripped the piece of paper off of the spiral tab, because that spiral has that little thing that makes it hard for me to turn, and then when I'm drawing, it just gets in my hand's way. So I just removed that piece of paper off of the whole pad, and I'll start drawing directly on the paper. This is just more convenient for me to draw everything without the spiral being in the way. When I'm at comic book conventions, I'll leave the spiral on because it has a hardback on the spiral sketchbook. So now I dip my brush and I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna start filling in the backs of the ink areas of the face. And because of the hoodie, I imagine with Moon Knight there should be a shade that's covering his face. Even though Moon Knight is all white, I decided, Moon Knight's usually is all white. I'm gonna give this Moon Knight, to make it more fun, I'm gonna give it as many shadows as I can. So even he's wearing a white costume, I'm just gonna put in a lot of black areas, a lot of shadows, just to entertain myself while I'm drawing. Every so often, if I'm drawing for myself, I'll do things just to make it entertaining for myself, like how I did the cape, how I added more shadows, how I'm just changing up the costume, how I'm angling the ink lines. Instead of a smooth line, I'm giving every line an edgy feel. I'll go in there and I'll start adding all the shadows. And this is just putting in the form, figuring out where the shadows are. And I'm constantly just spinning the page with my left hand, adding the shadows a little bit at a time. And as I'm adding the shadows, I'm thinking about the anatomy, which part bulges out, which part bulges in. Underneath the bulge part where the light source is not hitting, there'll be a shadow there. So I add a really thick, bold black line there. On the knees, add that. And in some of the black areas, I'm just randomly putting in there because I just think it looks cool having those black areas there. On the cape, I'm going to draw out all the lines of the cape first. Get all the holding lines, all the lines done before I start filling in the black areas of the cape. So right behind Moon Knight's left arm, I have the cape all scrunched up right behind him, and it's all bent and folded in there. So that was a lot of fun to do. This was a lot of fun to do. And I'm just going to erase some of the areas and start pulling in some taper lines. Taper lines are lines that goes from the black area to thin to the white area, or vice versa. It will start off a thin line, go into a thick line, and then those lines will connect, go into a black area. This gives it a little gray form. And here I'm just going in there, adding some hatch lines, some taper lines, any areas that's just a black area and a white area. Instead of just a black and white, I'll just go in there and I'll add a little gray area. And at the same time, I'm contouring around the shape of the body. So instead of just drawing straight lines that just go straight, I'll just curve it a little bit. And I'm also, with this piece, unlike all the other previous pieces I've done where I just did taper lines, I decided to do cross tapering on this one. This is where I have a hatch line going one direction and then a cross hatch, but with tapering lines. So I'm going in there, tapering all the lines, filling all the blacks, and then as I'm inking it, I'm looking at the art and I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out. A lot of times I'm inking and I don't really know how the finished image looks. And for this Moon Knight, I'm inking it and I'm looking at it, and this doesn't look that bad. I'm pretty happy with how it turns out. And this was a suggestion from one of my YouTube viewers. He mentioned, how about drawing Moon Knight? And I thought that was a great idea. So now I'm drawing Moon Knight. The past couple of YouTube videos for Inktober is because of you viewers that made comments of what characters to draw that I'm picking and choosing. So thank you very much for that. It's very appreciative that you're writing what characters to draw. So you have a little bit of interaction on your side. So you have a little bit of input. I put a little piece of white paper underneath my paper, so when I'm over inking it, it doesn't make a mess on my drawing paper. That's what that paper was. Okay, now I'm just adding in the final details. Face, some more hatch lines, taper lines, just pretty much done. And I like to spin my paper around, and when I'm doing that, I'm keeping track of what areas are still wet. That way my right hand doesn't smudge any of the areas. After all the filling in the blacks and all the details done, I grab a micron pen and I'll go in there and I'll add minor details, little dots here, little bloopy lines over here, little hatch lines, just little lines that you can do much quicker with a micron as opposed to using a brush. So and when all that's done, I'll sign my name. After I sign my name, I'll go in there and I'll use a knead eraser and I'll start erasing with a knead eraser. The knead eraser only erases so much, like a general area. And after the knead eraser, I'll just go in there and I'll grab the vinyl eraser, which erases more stubborn lines. This is the vinyl eraser. So there you have it. That's my Inktober piece of this Moon Knight right over here. From the process of sketching it out, penciling it in, putting details, adding shadows, muscles, and then finally ending it with the ink lines. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so anytime I upload a video, you'll be one of the first to see it. I hope my videos inspire you to continue doing art. Thank you for watching. And until tomorrow's video, I don't even know what I'm going to be working on tomorrow. I'm going to read more viewers' comments to find out what characters they wrote down. And I'll be drawing those characters based on what you commented. So thank you very much. Until tomorrow, take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.